right. Hello, everyone. Welcome on in. I am Angelo the Wizard, and joining me today is my good friend and partner through this movie night adventure, Twisted Cricket, as well as our semi-regular friend, Relic. Go ahead and say hello.
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 All right, and so let's rewind the dial a little bit. Long time ago, I had Mondays off, and Cricket had Monday nights off, so we ended up just at some point started watching movies together, watching various stuff together on our Discord. And eventually we started doing more theme months and trying to find a bunch of movies that would fit a theme. And then eventually, I'm pretty sure it was you, Cricket, who came up with the idea of doing what we're doing now, which is a challenge in which every movie we watch has to connect to the previous movie with a few rules involved as well. I'm pretty sure it was you. Was it you?
Yes, absolutely. I got the idea from the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon,
Yeah.
which that comes from the 6 degrees of separation. The idea that any person in the world can link to any other person by 6 individuals. Well, I
Yeah.
figure if you can do it with movie actors, why not just the movies themselves?
Yeah. So, last year we just kind of did it, but this year, not only did we keep our various rules, but we decided to add an extra challenge. So the rules, getting into the rules a little bit, as I said already, the movie we choose has to link back to the previous movie, and you can't use the same link within 2 weeks. So you have to come up with basically when it comes back around to you, you got to come up with a different link at the bare minimum.
Right.
We also had small challenges for October and December. October, we like to try and challenge ourselves and do all horror movies. December, we like to do this December. We did Christmas or Heartwarming. Last year was all Christmas movie, which led to us watching Full Metal Jacket the week before Christmas. That was
It featured a Christmas scene.
That's how
They
how
sang
much
"Happy
we need.
Birthday to Jesus." It's a Christmas scene.
I think they also
So the
talk
links
about
can be
yeah,
the links can be very tenuous,
is what we're
but
getting
that's
at here.
where part of the charm comes from.
Yeah, yeah.
Example links: same actor, same director, features a certain kind of scene, same genre. Those are the easy ones. Those are the ones that we always kept in our back pocket if we couldn't come up with a different link.
Yes. As long as you could explain the link, we accepted it. So, so yeah, this year we decided to keep track of it so we could have a big old wrap up party, which is what we are currently doing now. We also had a list of 5 movies each that we needed to sneak into the runtime somewhere. We'll be going over those lists at the end of it. We also have guesses for the other person's list. And Relic is here mostly because he was the neutral third party who knew everything that was happening and got to laugh at us for it.
Yes, he witnessed all of the backroom manipulation in trying to sneak in your certain movie when the link is just, it's there, but, not quite. I know that I at least once had to go to him for a ruling on whether or not a link was being used too soon.
Oh, well, fair enough. I just asked you directly, most of the time, like, hey, does this link work?
Yeah, no, I wanted to sneak it in, but at the same time, another of my ones had just been done recently, so I wanted to know whether or not it would be too soon.
Fair enough.
He ruled that it was fair game. I accepted the ruling of the judge wholeheartedly, and there we are.
All right, well, let's get into the list because that's going to take the longest time here. Our first movie, which was my pick, I started this off. We used The Princess Bride because I figured it would be one of the easiest movies to link off of, and it was just easy to go from there. Nothing to it. If you want to know more about The Princess Bride, there's going to be 6 million different YouTubers that have all made a video on it. Go look at them.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the best movies of all time. We know it. So you were the first one to link off of this, and you went in a way that I did not call in the slightest.
No, you're expecting something easy. Instead, I picked the link of "a wish is granted." In The Princess Bride, the key phrase is "as you wish."
Mm-hmm.
So I decided a wish is granted. A young boy wishes for his teddy bear to come to life. Also, I figured it would be the last movie you'd expect to link off of The Princess Bride, hence why I picked it.
Yeah, no, you mission accomplished. Holy shit.
And then you turned it around and did yet another thing,
Oop.
because there's a scene in Ted that links to the next one. Go ahead.
Yes. So in the movie Ted, there is a moment where the actor who played Flash Gordon shows up as a cameo appearance, and he has a hallucination of a Chinese sorcerer and fights him. So obviously that's the link we're going to use of white guy fighting a Chinese sorcerer, and we watched Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. Again, these movie links take us in such random directions that you have no idea where it's going to go.
That's the advantage.
For example, I chose Big Trouble in Little China led into same director for a movie that I've always wanted to see, but hadn't. Not only same director, it also shares same actor, but I chose same director because we like to save the same actor for an emergency link.
Yeah.
So we watched The Thing.
Yeah. I will also admit that as a lot of this experiment is me getting to see a lot of movies that I've never seen before. I had seen part of The Thing before for a college class, but I hadn't watched the whole thing, so I was very thankful for this.
The whole thing.
I managed to I get what you mean. Okay. Took me a moment there. But yeah, no. So with The Thing, the whole gimmick of the movie is that they are trapped in an Antarctic snowstorm. I used Trapped in a Snowstorm to get us to The Shining.
Again, the last thing I would expect. I mean, yeah, you could argue that The Thing is a horror movie, and it is.
It is, to a degree.
But it's a sci-fi horror. Shining is definitely more
psychological
horror. Which is a welcome thing, because this is yet another movie that I have seen clips of, but never seen the whole thing. Part of the trivia that I loved on this one was the fact that Stanley Kubrick wanted Robin Williams for the lead, but Stephen King said, "I don't want Mork from Ork in my movie, I veto it."
Yeah. Which, I mean, we both watched, we did a Robin Williams month a couple of years back, and we watched the whole Dark trilogy that Robin Williams did. We did Insomnia, 1 Hour Photo, and Schmorky Must Die. He can do dark.
Smoochie. Yes.
Or Smoochie Must Die, but yeah. He can do dark. He can do scary.
Death to Smoochie. That's
right, Death to Smoochie.
Either way.
You got what I meant.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing we forgot to mention, after each movie, we usually go in and read through the trivia on the IMDb page for the movie, just, for interesting tidbits about it. Alternate actors they were looking at, that sort of thing.
The alternate actors are always a fun time.
Oh, yes, definitely. So from The Shining, Stuck in a Snowstorm, which features Jack Torrance trying to kill people with his axe, I decided to link to So I Married an Axe Murderer.
A movie I didn't even know existed.
To a comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there in the title, Axe Murderer.
Yeah.
So.
I have a bone to pick with this particular movie. On TV Tropes, the cover art page has the lady here, the lady character. She's holding an axe behind her back the way he's holding the flowers. Every other fucking image I could find, I could not find that. So.
Yeah. No, the original poster had the axe.
Yeah.
But I guess they took it out because it's too violent.
I guess so.
Which look at the name of the movie and you're expecting violence.
Yeah, but
or at the very least slapstick comedy.
Yeah, which it's Mike Myers. Anyway, so off of So I Married an Axe Murderer, I decided to take the fact that it was a comedy and use the same genre to get to a movie I've never seen before, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, a movie that I had heard of and always wanted to see but never had the chance to, so...
Oh, it's glorious.
It is a great movie.
John Candy playing the foil to Steve Martin is just wonderful.
They had the best chemistry.
It's so natural that you think you're watching a couple of guys just, having the worst time ever. You don't even think it's a movie.
Yeah.
A lot of John Candy movies are like that.
He's very good at playing natural, yeah.
In Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it's in the title. They ride on a plane, which then gets diverted or from weather or something. So I use that to pick a movie that I wouldn't have found otherwise. I used the link of features a plane and linked to Airplane versus Volcano.
Oh my god. We'll
It's a
talk more
movie.
about this later.
It's a movie. Um, it's I'm thinking it was a made for sci-fi TV movie.
It
I
definitely
can't
has that
imagine this getting
feel.
a theatrical release,
Like
but
it.
still,
So
look, just yeah.
we had nowhere to go but up after this one. So I decided to take so the way the title is structured, you have airplane versus volcano, X versus Y. Taking that, I used that to link to Joe versus the volcano, which cheered us all up.
A much better movie. I mean, it's early Tom Hanks, it's comedy, it's one of the first pairings of Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, which, is historic.
There were 3 of those movies in like the same time frame. There was this,
Oh, yeah.
Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kept pairing them together because they were of license to print money.
Basically. So yeah, it was good.
Definitely good on the romantic comedy side. Watching Meg Ryan play like 3 different characters too. That was pretty funny.
That was a good.
So I used the same genre, which hadn't been used for more than 2 weeks, so I was in the clear. But we went from Joe versus a volcano to The Proposal.
Yeah.
Because I am a big Sandra Bullock fan. And Ryan Reynolds pairing with her is just that much better.
I would not have expected you to be a fan of Sandra Bullock, but I guess I learn new things every day.
I do like her, yes.
That's fair.
Several of the movies that she's done, the type of character, Miss Congeniality, for example.
That is a very good
definitely
movie.
Up there
I'll
and
give
one
you
of my
that one.
favorites. So she also tends to play more of a tough role, or more of an assertive role. Which in this one, she played the boss that tries to trick her intern into fake marrying her so that she can stay in the country legally.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Anyway, and you brought it up how she's playing the boss in this movie, and I decided to use the idea that the major characters all work for the same company to link us to Ghostbusters. And
it's a link. It's definitely a link. You know?
It was a tricky one, but I managed to get it. But I'd never seen Ghostbusters, so I wanted to see it.
Which surprised me. See, half of the movies you have never seen are movies that I grew up watching and saw on TV time and time and time again. So half of this experiment is to get you to see these type of movies. Ghostbusters, it's a classic.
Also, if we want to talk, it's a link. Features a Plane was also a link at best.
It was one of the links of all time.
There was a plane. The movie wouldn't have the title if there were no plane. Therefore, that is a feature, not a bug.
I think to kind of explain why I haven't seen a lot of these movies, I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I was usually either busy with schoolwork or like parents had control of the TV, so I didn't get to watch a lot of this stuff when it would be on because they'd be watching something else. So not a bad thing. It just means I didn't get to watch a lot of this stuff. So
no. Now we get to watch them together, which is always wonderful when you know what's going to happen and they don't.
Oh yeah, that's always a great feeling.
From Ghostbusters, I decided to use same actor, or in this case, actress, because the lady who played Janine voices Bo Peep in the Toy Story franchise. Annie Potts.
Yep.
Again, it's a tentative link, but it's a confirmed link. So we linked from Ghostbusters to Toy Story.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect it because the voice she uses for Bo Peep is very different from the voice she uses for Ghostbusters, which I assume is her normal voice.
Very talented I don't know. A lot of people can put on a New York accent on demand, especially if they're doing voice work. So I don't know if that's her natural or not.
That's fair. Didn't you
Anyway,
also say that
very
you had never
talented.
seen this movie before?
All the way through, no,
Okay,
I had not.
fair enough.
It's one of those that I'd seen the clips that go around the internet every so often, and I was very well aware of the plot,
Yeah,
but I haven't seen it, and to this day, I haven't seen the sequels.
no, fair.
So,
I will say, having watched this when I was much younger and now seeing it, everybody does everybody knows how much Toy Story and Pixar revolutionized animation in general. But watching it now, oh boy, is it rough around the edges.
yeah,
Like, it's still
Yeah.
good. It's just, you can see the seams. Like,
yeah.
anyway.
It's only gotten better from there.
So, from Toy Story, I used the fact that pizza appears in several of the scenes of Toy Story to get us to Wayne's World, which has the very beautiful anti-product placement scene where Wayne is talking about how he will never bend to the will of his corporate masters while holding up a Pizza Hut box.
Aha.
Like,
Yeah. This is a movie that I first saw on a high school choir trip on the bus. And the choir teacher was a little tentative about it at first, and he almost turned it off when Wayne started swearing at the camera, but people said, no, just leave it on, just trust us. That's as bad as it gets. So I haven't seen this one for at least 20 years.
jeez. Is it as good as you remember?
It is. It
Good.
is. Mike Myers is good. The trivia revealed that the rivalry between Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, where the producers wanted more like the SNL skit, but Mike Myers wanted more of a solo movie.
Yeah. I gotta be careful with my mouse wheel because the scroll wheel will go through the slides. But
So from Wayne's World, which features a very good conversation where they discuss the naming of Milwaukee with none other than Alice Cooper, I used the link of special guest Alice Cooper to go to Dark Shadows, which Alice Cooper plays himself giving a concert.
yeah, oh, that was a great link, and I am basically always in for any movie with Johnny Depp. Which I suddenly realized we had 3 Johnny Depp movies on this list.
Oh yes,
Like-
yes, it's very common. I'm surprised we didn't have more Tim Burton.
Yeah, because only 2 of those are. I'm trying to remember. Was it 2 of those were Tim Burton? Anyway, so yeah. Again, another case of covers always lie because everyone on here looks like they're a vampire, except none of them are, except for him.
Yeah.
but-
Now, the thing that people don't realize, and people went to see this movie not realizing it, this is actually based off of a soap opera from the 60s, which
Yeah.
was insanely popular with teenagers.
Yeah, it had all kinds of fun supernatural and creepy elements.
Yeah,
So-
they even had the original actor do a cameo.
I know, it was great. So off of Dark Shadows, we had one of the big plot points from the villain of Dark Shadows is that they are obsessed with Johnny Depp's character. Rightfully so. He's a handsome guy. I decided to take that idea of a villainous obsession with a protagonist to get Hunchback of Notre Dame, where the antagonist Frollo is completely obsessed with Esmeralda, one of the heroic characters. Hunchback of Notre Dame is also one of the few Disney movies I haven't seen, so you give me an excuse, I'll slot it right in there.
It's always good to have a Disney movie just for the music alone.
Oh yes, 100%.
We've kind of got a standing rule that if there are more than 3 songs sung in character, it is a musical.
Yep.
Every Disney movie fits that.
Yeah.
Frollo's Singing of Hellfire is probably one of my favorite villain songs ever.
Yep. And was it Jeremy Irons singing it, or I think they had to call in a stunt double for that.
I think they did a double.
Yeah.
But I'm not certain.
A double who did a really damn good job, if that's the case.
Yes. So The Hunchback of Notre Dame, originally the story, was written by author Victor Hugo. Now, Victor Hugo was a French author who wrote many other works, including but not limited to Les Miserables. So that's what I linked. I not only got based on a book, I got same author of the original book,
Yup.
Victor Hugo. And we went from a musical to another musical, so I could have used that. But
Yeah.
still, the music in this one, I'm sorry, Hugh Jackman could sing.
Oh yeah, I mean he started on Broadway, doesn't he? Or at the very least, like stage musicals.
It makes me sad that I haven't seen more of it.
Yeah.
But the story.
And I'm
this
not
is one
typically a fan of musicals, but this might have been my favorite of the year. It was so good. I'd never seen it before, and so glad that we got to watch it.
I can't watch it without tearing up.
Yeah,
and I've seen it before.
I'll admit this movie out of most of what we've seen, with the exception of one that we'll talk about later, I think this is the movie that stayed in my mind for the longest this year.
Yeah.
It just stuck with me. So,
yes.
If I ever get a chance to be in a production of this, I want to be Inspector Javier, because I love that role and I think I could do a lot with it. So
I think I'd like to be Master of the House.
That'd be pretty good too.
Yeah.
So from Les Miserables, Les Miserables, the whole point of the story is the hero is pursued by law enforcement for basically the entire runtime, which I use to link to Terminator 2. Even if he's faking it, he still looks like a cop.
Yes.
So we had Terminator 2 Judgment Day as my movie. I've never seen any of the Terminator movies. I think I maybe saw T3 Rise of the Machines a couple of times, but it's completely faded from my memory, and I had never seen Terminator 2, so that's where I went.
Thankfully, a lot of people will agree that if you start with Terminator 2 without having seen The Terminator, you're fine.
Yeah.
Because this one stands alone on its own. You miss a lot of the backstory with the mom, but that's fine. It's kind of explained pretty well.
You can pick up the context pretty easily. Like,
yeah.
I've never seen Terminator, and I was able to follow along, so...
The only reason that Arnold agreed to come back for this, because he doesn't like playing the bad guy. The only reason he agreed to come back is because they rewrote him as the good guy.
Yeah. Which, hey, there you go.
So from Terminator 2, I use the very easy link of time travel to watch a movie that I'd found called Paradox. Which basically, it goes off of a team of secret scientists who are trying to come up with time travel. They've got a bunker in the basement of a building. They know that when they turn it on, it's going to play hell with the power grid. They're doing it completely secretly because they're being funded by some mysterious benefactor. And there is time shenanigans. You have to basically spend the movie deciding whether or not there actually is a paradox.
Yeah, it's a head trip, and I don't want to get too heavily into it because there are a lot of spoilers. Like, anything past the first 5 minutes, and we're basically into spoiler territory.
You can find this one online for free very easily.
Yep.
I would recommend it to anyone that likes sci-fi.
And it's decently done. Like, the script is fairly good. The actors do a good performance. There's not a whole hell of a lot of special effects, and they don't need to do much with it, but it works out. They do pretty well.
It's one of those movies that's done with like a set of like 12 rooms, and that's all.
Yeah, and like an exterior shot, but that's about all you need.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from Paradox, I decided to take the idea, because to give one spoiler, the protagonist of Paradox ends up being the villain of the story. I decided to take that and go to a movie that I had seen pop up when I just hit random media on TV tropes, and I ran across a little movie called Nightcrawler. I remember you not liking the ending of this.
No, the ending pissed me off because he doesn't get his comeuppance. There is no uppance to come.
Yeah, so if you are looking for a deep dive into an utterly remorseless character that ends up getting everything he wants out of it, watch Nightcrawler. If that sounds like a terrible time, like it does to Cricket, don't!
Other than that, he gives a great performance. I fully believe that his character was the character that he was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he wins...
Yeah.
Oh, it makes me so angry.
It came out on Halloween, I just realized.
All right, so from there, and the fact that I couldn't get the fixation of the bad guy winning out of my head for like 5 days afterwards, I decided to go with the theme of bad guy wins, and we watched Doctor Strangelove.
Yep.
Now this is an old Stanley Kubrick movie. It's a dark comedy about the end of the world, basically. A rogue military general decides to go off the deep end with the launch codes, and he sends out the launch codes, and by a series of unfortunate mistakes, the bombs actually drop. So the bad guy won.
Essentially, yeah. I'm realizing that I think we have, at this point, I think we have like 3 Kubrick films on the list.
We do.
Yeah.
And that was by design.
Fair enough. All right. So after Doctor Strangelove, I decided that I wanted to pivot and do some Shakespeare. I came up. I remember the whole idea of Doctor Strangelove is the whole plot relies on the general, the military general, creating a great big lie that gets his entire company and all of his planes to follow it. So I went with the adaptation of the Shakespeare play Twelfth Night, or As You Like, where the only reason this plot exists is because nobody can say, hey, I have a twin sibling that I thought died.
Yeah. If there is no lie, there is no plot.
Yes. And it has Helena Bonham Carter in a not Tim Burton movie, so
that's a rarefied gem to begin with.
Yeah. Also
Still,
has
they
Ben
give a
Kingsley.
wonderful performance without hair. That's the important bit. I'm sorry, I still do not like A Sound of Thunder because of that.
Oh yeah, if you ever want a fun time, just ask Cricket why he hates The Sound of Thunder. You'll be treated to like 10 minutes of the greatest movie rant you've ever heard.
I'm not getting into it here. We'll save that for another video.
We'll save it for the next podcast.
All right, so from 12th Night, which has 12 in the title, I decided to use a very simple link to 12 Monkeys, which is a movie that I've always heard the title of. I know that it was based off of a novel, but I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
After finding out that it was directed by Terry Gilliam, the same genius who did a lot of Monty Python, who did Brazil, I was not disappointed. I loved this movie.
Yeah.
The fact that you aren't entirely sure whether it's going on in his head or in reality.
Yeah. And it's not used as a cop-out, because that's the thing. Like, dream sequences or movies that are all in a character's head is often used as a cop-out for having the character face consequences. Bruce Willis deals with consequences in this movie. Like, he has to shoulder the burden. Like, they're not using it to get away from the story that they've created. It's woven into the story, and that's what makes it genius.
No, it's good. It's sci-fi. It's a more easy to understand Looper.
Yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, also starred Bruce Willis.
That's a good point. So I decided, a heavy amount of 12 Monkeys takes place in a post-apocalypse after an unspecified virus decimates the human population. Using that, I decided to go to a movie that I had read the book of back in college, but I'd never seen the movie. So we watched the film adaptation of The Road, originally by Cormac MacArthur. Excellent book. The movie I don't think is that good. We were in a bit of a dark patch here at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, our dark humor was going overtime, especially because some of our favorite games are like Project Zomboid and things, which they don't show any zombies, but it's the same kind of world.
And surprise guest appearance from the actor who plays Bert in Raising Hope, which we watched a lot of before we started doing movies.
Absolutely,
so.
Great actor.
Oh yeah, great
I
stuff.
wish he'd have had more, but still,
it happens.
So from The Road post-apocalypse, which features a scene where they don't have any food, so they are literally eating bugs that they found. Slightly dead bugs. Which is better than nothing. It's better than starving, so I'm told. I decided to use a link to Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, which features a scene where he's in the jungle and he hits a large bug with a machete and then licks the machete to see what flavor the bug is. So eating bugs is the very tentative link to yet another Johnny Depp Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, well, there was also the fact that in the Oompa Loompa village, he's like grinding up a bunch of bugs and eating it. So I was more willing to accept it because there's at least 2 scenes of eating bugs.
Yes.
Yeah, that I mean, I just want to like just to show you guys where we go. The road with this to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Could you imagine 2 more vastly different movies?
No, unless they had more songs in the road.
Well,
but I think that's something we'll save for the Broadway adaptation.
So continuing on with us doing shenanigans related to the title, in this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you could basically call it a person and the place sort of title, which is what I used to get us to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Often
Person
regarded
and the place.
Yep, person and the place. Often regarded as the weakest of the original trilogy, and I can see why. Compared to Raiders and Last Crusade, it's not as good, but it's still a fine movie.
It was meant to be standalone. They didn't want you to have to see the previous movie before this. Also, technically, this is a prequel to Raiders.
This is a prequel to Raiders. You are correct.
If you want to watch them in chronological order, you have to go Temple, Raiders, Last Crusade, Crystal Skull.
Which, well, if you stop at Last Crusade, you will at least be watching them in rising quality.
Yeah, I personally didn't mind Crystal Skull. It's trying to hand the franchise over to someone else, and I don't think it worked.
No.
Either way, but still, this is a good one. It features a lot of good actors, especially Short Round, who I loved in Goonies as Data. Sadly, though, those were the only 2 things he had done for like 20 years. Until Everything Everywhere All at Once, which stars him.
Yes.
Ke Huy Quan does a wonderful performance in this movie, which I didn't know anything about this movie when I picked it, other than the fact that he was in it. I didn't realize it was going to be as good as it turned out to be.
No, we cannot heap enough praise on this movie. Like, the 2 of us together cannot put enough praise on this movie. No one in the universe can put enough praise on this movie. Every single frame of this movie is cinematic perfection.
I've never been more excited to watch somebody do their taxes.
I know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, it's got Jamie Lee Curtis in it as the Scream Queen, and in the trivia, she revealed that she had no idea what was going on while she was filming. But after watching the premiere, she turned to the director and said, "I get it now."
Yeah. Even on a meta level, because they did a bunch of posters of fake movies of all the universes that she jumps to, which, spoilers, there's dimensional hopping in this movie, and even those are fantastic. Yeah. There's like a French romance movie poster for one of them. There's like a nature documentary. There's like, it's just incredible that they went to such extra effort for this.
It shows. This is a labor of love.
Oh yeah. So I had nowhere to go since we had reached the top. But I decided to just play it safe, go with a really easy link. There is a lot of kung fu fighting in this movie, so I moved to another movie that I wanted to see, Kung Fu Panda, using the link of Kung Fu.
A very easy link, a very good movie.
Yep.
Start of a very fun franchise.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the DreamWorks ones I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the fact that the Chinese government basically said, how can they do a better movie about China than we can?
It's like, it was more along the lines of like, why didn't we come up with this first? How did they beat us to this?
Still, it's great. From there, the whole premise of Kung Fu Panda, and it's not a spoiler, is that he has to become the Dragon Warrior in order to fight an escaped prisoner. So, using escaped prisoner as a link, we jump to the 3rd in the Harry Potter series, Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes. Now, I've seen them all before. I think you said that you've seen them all before.
Easily. The only ones I haven't seen are the Fantastic Beasts.
Right. This is... I do say that this is where, like, the movies, at least, kind of hit their stride.
Yes.
Things were a lot more emotional depth was involved, a lot darker parts of the story were not shied away from. Very
Yes.
well done all together. From there, once again, I took a very easy link of the use of magic to get us to the movie Willow, a classic of the fantasy genre that I have never seen.
Yes. Early George Lucas.
Yeah.
Definitely a good one. The video game adaptations of it
They
existed.
existed.
But no, he does a wonderful thing. And I've heard wonderful things about the TV series that they've done based off of it.
Oh.
Still, it's got Val Kilmer in it as well as Warwick Davis. It's just wonderful. I would recommend this for anyone that likes Lord of the Rings, because you'll probably like this too. And it's standalone enough. You don't need any, Silmarillion to give you the history of the known continent.
Yeah. Everything that needs to be explained gets explained. The things that don't need to be explained, they just kind of ignore.
Yeah. It was one of the best movies of 1988.
Yeah.
Segue. I used the link of same year of release for the next one, They Live.
John Carpenter's They Live.
I thought had come out a lot earlier than that, personally.
It does look like it should be earlier, yeah.
Thing. But it's one of those movies that it was done on a cheaper budget, so it looks like it's done from like 5 to 10 years earlier. Still, it's been on my list to see, just for no other reason than to see it. It stars a wrestler, of all things, who is used to acting. Yeah. And he does a good job, but at the same time, they fight a lot. The fight scenes go on for way longer than they needed to.
I feel that you're giving me a segue here, because I use the fact that the fight scenes go on way too long to get us to another movie with extended fight scenes, Enter the Dragon.
I'd never seen any Bruce Lee.
I haven't. I think I maybe have seen some of his stuff before, or at the very least, stuff inspired by his stuff. But I'd never seen Enter the Dragon. It felt like an easy link to get to, so I figured, why not?
Yeah. Besides, we'd already done Kung Fu Panda, so the groundwork was laid.
Exactly.
So, upon seeing the trivia of this upon seeing the trivia of this movie, and finding out that Bruce Lee died prior to the release of it. Like, the movie was shot, they were getting ready to premiere it, and then he died before they could. I used a link of main actor died before premiere, which is more elaborate than I needed. I could have used, same last name for the main actor. I decided to link to The Crow.
With Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, who died in an accident during filming of this movie.
Yeah.
And because of the family saying that it should go ahead, they decided to do some creative editing and release it anyway, at their behest.
Yeah. And it's a solid movie. I want to say there's some sort of comics or something that this is based off of.
Yes.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I know they changed a bit for the movie, but yeah, there is a comic series that this was based off of.
Yes.
And of course, it's the whole trope of, of an undead avenging angel watching over the people he cares about. It's been done numerous times.
Yeah. But I decided, so the thing is that it is essentially like he is brought back from the dead in order to right wrongs. I decided to use the link of Resurrection to get us to yet another classic of the sci-fi genre I have never seen, RoboCop.
He dies and comes back stronger.
Yep. I specifically used the idea of him coming back stronger as part of the link to make it a bit more specific, so you had an easier time jumping off of this.
This is a classic movie of a guy who has the worst day at work ever, so bad that he dies, and they make him come back to work the next day.
I know, right? And yeah, remember that time RoboCop shot that guy in the dick?
I certainly do. And the fact that, it's not like a giant corporation would sell out an entire city so that they could expand. Yeah, we were making jokes like this all through the movie because it was hitting a little close to home.
Yeah, it's
Can't have
unfortunate.
shit in Detroit.
Cannot have shit in Detroit.
Anyway, a main thing for this director, one of his trademarks, is that he likes to put fake commercials in his movies. So
Mhm.
I set it up for you. Go ahead.
Well, this is the next one is yours.
Oh, yes. Right, yes. So the fact that a couple of the fake commercials feature a giant lizard fighting a giant robot, I decided to use appearance of giant lizard and giant robot to link to Ready Player One, which features Godzilla and the Iron Giant.
Which is just adorable.
Yeah, and the trivia fact that they weren't planning on using the Iron Giant, it was supposed to be some anime mecha robot that they couldn't find who legally had the rights to.
Yeah.
So they went with Iron Giant because a writer, loved it growing up.
And that was a lot easier
The
to get your
trivia
hands
for
on.
this movie. Oh God, the trivia for this movie.
This is a movie you could watch like 50 times and still pull out like new little bits that they included in the background that you didn't notice before.
They were adding stuff in that Spielberg had no idea of that linked back to his previous work.
Yeah. Speaking of essentially prop reuse here, which is not a bad thing. Prop recycling is a very good thing. Reduce, reuse, recycle. But I decided to use the fact that a very particular prop, a very particular box appears in this movie to link to Gremlins. The box that Maugwai comes in is the same box that the magic orb is held in Ready Player One, and it was in the trivia, so it just gave me the idea right there.
Yeah. This is another classic. I would argue Christmas movie because it takes place during Christmas.
Yep, and the love interest even has that moment where she stops the entire plot to explain why she hates Christmas, which is so ridiculous that I think I cracked up laughing during it.
Yeah. Plus the fact that Gizmo is just so damn marketable.
He is
wanted
so marketable.
a Gizmo doll growing up just because. And then they went and turned him into a damn Furby, and I never wanted him again.
I was about to say, like, his design, Furby was definitely copying the homework here, and I consider Furbies to be a scourge upon God our Lord, so...
Yeah. Still, this was good. They got a sequel as well.
They did get a sequel, but your movie is up next on this one, so...
Okay, so from Gremlins, which featured a scene where the gremlins themselves are like chain smoking and looking extremely cool while doing it because, don't smoke, kids. Anyway, I used a link of smoking being sometimes cool to link to Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, where the caterpillar, voiced by Alan Rickman, smokes a hookah.
Yes. I did have to specify Tim Burton here, because unlike Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where the movie version with Gene Wilder is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, this is using the same name as the original Disney animated one. So
yes,
I had to specify.
The thing I like most about this is about halfway through you come to realize it's not a remake, it's a sequel.
Yup, that is interesting. I was not expecting that it was an artistic choice, and I respect it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just now realized the caterpillar's in the poster there.
It features a lot of original poetry from the original, the whole poem of the Jabberwocky.
Yep.
The origin of the Vorpal Blade, which anyone that's played D&D knows what the Vorpal Blade does.
Oh, yeah.
This is why.
It's
wonderful. I loved it.
So from there, I used... So, okay, I have to give a bit of context, even though I have the image up on screen here. That weekend before after we watched Alice in Wonderland, that Saturday, after that, I went and watched Beetlejuice 2 with my family, having never seen the original. Realizing that I had a golden opportunity to correct that, I used the link of same director to watch the original Beetlejuice. Having seen both of them, I can tell you flat out, they're both great. They both stack up well against each other. Both excellent movies, great comedies all around.
Yeah, I haven't seen the sequel, so we may rectify that at some point.
We may have to rectify that at some point.
No, I love this one. I grew up watching the Beetlejuice cartoon, which is nothing like this movie.
Nothing like this at all. They're all their own unique stories, and I think even the stage production is its own beast, too.
but does have some very catchy songs.
Oh yeah.
So from Beetlejuice, same director, there's a line in there where the dude is on the phone with his agent talking about the fact that this will be the biggest thing since the talking Marcel Marceau statue, which is a throwaway line because Marcel Marceau was a famous mime.
Exactly.
Why would the statue of him talk?
And
Anyway,
yet,
it's such a link to be that specific that I happen to know there's a movie that features a talking Marcel Marceau. And we
it's
linked to Silent Movie.
It's called Silent Movie!
The gimmick of this movie is Mel Brooks and his friends are trying to get a silent movie made in modern day Hollywood. This is modern in the 1970s. About halfway through, they decide, hey, we're making a silent movie. Why not get a silent movie star? Marcel Marceau, a famous mime. He doesn't even have to talk. So they get him up on the phone. They call the phone, and he does this whole mime pushing against the wind thing to get to the phone. He finally gets there. The title or the dialogue card comes up saying, hey, we're making a silent movie. We want you to be in. What do you say? And he looks at the camera, and the only words spoken out loud in this movie is Marcel Marcel, the famous mime, saying, no. And he hangs up.
I don't know what he said. I don't speak French.
Exactly. So the fact that you handed me a talking Marcel Marceau, I had to do it.
I am amazed that you managed to pull this one off. And it is such a wild link. Well, we'll get there, but anyway.
Yep.
So from Silent Movie, so in Silent Movie, when they're trying to get Burt Reynolds, yes,
Burt Reynolds.
So they try to get Burt Reynolds into their movie. Burt Reynolds takes a shower in the movie, and all of them appear in the shower with him. I use the idea of a group shower scene to get us to Starship Troopers. Again, yes. Can you think of two more polar opposites?
This is how our minds work. But still, that's also probably the most lewd link we've ever done.
Yeah. And
even though there's nothing sexual about that shower scene.
Oh, nothing at all. Like, if anything, it is the opposite of sexual because they're all talking about, like, what they're trying to accomplish with their military careers.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you would do in a situation like that, you know.
But yeah. Still, was this before he did RoboCop?
This had to have been after.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same director as RoboCop. Also featuring the same fake commercials as his trademark.
Yeah, which kind of fed into the whole storyline.
So about halfway through, they go to this distress beacon at an outpost, and they get ambushed. Oh boy, do they get ambushed!
Oh, it's an ambush.
I use the link of "It's an ambush" to link to "We Were Soldiers," which is about the first major battle of the Vietnam War, where they drop in and immediately get the entire Viet Cong army dropped on their head.
They get their shit kicked in, to coin a phrase.
And they knew it was coming too, but they were sent anyway. So it wasn't a case of bad intel; it's a case of underestimation.
Yeah,
but
this movie kind of fucked me up.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree with you there.
This is one of the most realistic war movies I have seen yet. And the only reason that's the case is because I haven't seen Saving Private Ryan.
Fair.
All the way through.
I could barely look at the poster without tearing up a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
That's how much it affected me.
Yeah.
So for those of you playing at home, you may notice the date, September 30th, and you may remember the rule we have for October about needing to do horror movies. I mean, granted, getting to a horror movie from the Vietnam War is not difficult in the slightest. You could classify this movie as a horror movie because, like, you know what's coming, and it's coming for 90 minutes before they even touch down in Vietnam. Like,
right. So finding something that links to this while being a horror movie should be very easy.
In this case, I just used the fact that there was the word soldiers in the title to get us to the movie Dog Soldiers, a movie that involves a bunch of British Special Forces soldiers fighting a tribe of werewolves.
Yeah. And they don't do it in the normal sympathy for the werewolf style. No.
The werewolves are
They
evil.
do it
Point
from
blank.
the soldier's perspective.
Like,
There was the special effects in this movie were pretty good for what I'm guessing is the budget they used. At one point, I mean, they're getting limbs ripped off. They're getting all kinds of stuff. I'm segueing here if you haven't told. Because the link I used was decapitation. One of the characters literally gets his head ripped off. So I picked the reanimator, which a key point in that is the guy is of trying to blackmail the main doctor, and he murders him with a shovel.
Yep.
Cuts his head clean off. And then in the dumbest thing ever, I don't know why he did this, he injects him with his reanimation serum, just the head. Or no, just the body. Yeah, just the body with the reanimation serum, and it somehow brings the head back as well.
no, I think
This
it's
is
just the
loosely
head,
based
actually.
off of. It's loosely based off of an H.P. Lovecraft short story of the same name.
Yep,
It
says it
bears
right here.
little resemblance to the story.
Yeah. Well, for one, it's much more updated to modern day, and it involves more side characters and gives them a lot more to do. H.P. Lovecraft was very much focused on like single protagonist and delving deep into their mind as they encounter these horrifying things.
Yes.
So
Now, the one good thing it has is Jeffrey Combs. Anyone who has watched Star Trek knows who Jeffrey Combs is.
yep.
You just don't know what he looks like.
Yeah, because he's always playing one of the alien characters.
His most notable one was Wayun in Deep Space Nine.
So, after the Reanimator, I used the link of Resurrection, basically once again, because I already did it for RoboCop, to get us to the movie Hellraiser. Excellent movie, I will say. Very freaky for, again, the very limited budget they had.
Yes.
A lot different from the short story that it was adapted from, which is interesting because the director, Clive Barker, is the one who wrote it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, a lot of body horror, but not quite Cronenberg body horror.
no, the worst you get is the guy as he's resurrecting, because he starts off as like a pile of goo.
Yes. But the tagline is right there on the poster, demons to some, angels to others. So I used the link of angels and demons to get us to a movie that I hadn't seen, Constantine.
Yeah, this was an inverse one because I had seen Constantine before, you hadn't.
No. I had basically dropped off of movies from this point, and at the time, I've corrected that now. It's a great movie. At the time, I thought it was just a religious matrix.
Yeah, it turns out that's not the case.
No.
So this was based on a comic book. This movie did not have a very good reception, but this was also during the time period when comic book movies were not very good. The best ones we had were the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
But I think time and the abysmal TV series that came out much later has softened people's views on this. To quote Thanos, perhaps I treated you too harshly. So
Yes.
from Constantine, I used the fact that it was a comic book adaptation to get us to one of the worst comic book adaptations, Howard the Duck.
This is a cult classic.
It's
You either love this movie or you've never heard of this movie. Or you've seen it and think it's terrible.
I actually kind of loved this movie.
It's cheesy, but they know it's cheesy, and halfway through they kind of embrace that.
Yeah. So and one of the big things is that for whatever reason, instead of using New York or any of the other places that are known for having comic book movies set in them, they used Cleveland, which was very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason, because the end of the world thing always happens in a major metropolitan area.
It's always New York,
When
it's always Los
realistically-
Angeles, it's always Tokyo.
If I was an alien landing in a spaceship somewhere, I need a big, wide area to land in. I'd pick the Midwest.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Texas. Anyway, but yeah, so like he says, it takes place in Cleveland. So I decided that since it's based off of a character that has made several cameos in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, that I wouldn't use that as a link because that would be what he would expect. And I instead went to Major League, which is set in Cleveland. Or Cleveland, as Howard says.
Which is how I wrote it down here because I thought that was funny. Yeah, the main gimmick of this movie is the same as the movie The Producers, which is also by Mel Brooks. The whole point is that they're trying to assemble, or at the very least, the villain is trying to assemble the worst baseball team ever so that they can fail, so that they can have reduced ticket sales, so they can move the team somewhere else. Predictably, because this is a comedy, it fails.
Yes. Instead, they end up winning the pennant, which he's already explained that she'll just make him a worse team next year and do the same thing over again. So they have nothing to lose.
They have nothing to lose. And I would like to point out that because there is a lot of baseball scenes in this movie, you handed me a loaded gun that had the word Twilight written on it and very, very carefully explained that I should not pull the trigger on this. Yes. I'd already pulled the trigger on Howard the Duck, so I didn't feel like subjecting you to more. Instead, I did use the link of same actor, being Wesley Snipes, to get us to Demolition Man.
Another Sandra Bullock movie, another one of my favorites.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Sandra Bullock was in this until we started watching it, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's a really good movie. It's got Dennis Leary, for one, who is always just a joy when he gets ranty.
I would argue Dennis Leary as himself.
Basically as himself. Like, I'm pretty sure the rant he does in the movie is barely adapted from something that was already part of his stand-up routine.
I'm almost certain I've seen that stand-up, yeah.
Yeah.
I still have no idea how to use the 3 seashells.
And this is also one of the movies that I cite. For as cheesy as it is, Stallone puts in a really good, really impactful performance. He does really well in this, and he's got a lot of acting chops, which is, I like the guy, okay? I like him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, definitely a good one. So from Demolition Man, I decided to use the fact that using cryogenics, he goes basically 200 years into the future. So he time travels into the future. I used the link of Man Out of Time to get us to the Time Machine, the 2002 version. I could have done the original version from back in the 60s, which is good, but this is better in my opinion.
Yeah, I will agree with you that I think this is a much better movie. It allows itself to indulge a little with some of the sets. The set of his office in the past and all the places he goes to in the future, beautifully rendered, beautifully set up. It has Jeremy Irons in it near the end, and Jeremy Irons is again always a delight. Especially because he got to chew the scenery something fierce. So let the man eat a couple of the wall sections. It's fine.
Yes.
So a part of this version of the Time Machine that isn't in any of the other ones is the fact that he is inspired to rush the building of the Time Machine in order to save his loved one. It is a desperate, extreme measure to try and save the love of his life. It doesn't succeed in this movie, but it does succeed in the movie that I linked to, Die Hard.
Now, you'll notice the date. We are now in December.
Yes.
So that means that it not only must share a link, it must also be either a Christmas movie or a wholesome movie. Now,
I don't give a...
it's on this list means that it is a Christmas movie.
I do not care what Bruce Willis has to say. The movie does not work unless the Christmas party is happening in Nakatomi Plaza. It is a Christmas movie. Christmas is integral to the plot. Shut your mouth.
So you can stop typing that comment right now.
We know what you're doing. You can stop typing right now. The rest of our fare is not very big on the Christmas, but very big on the heartwarming. You have the next one.
Yes. So from Die Hard, which 2 of the villains that he goes after are brothers, and they have guns. They don't end up well in this movie, but I used the link of Brothers with Guns to go to Secondhand Lions, which is a very heartwarming film starring Haley Joel Osment and Michael Caine and Robert Duvall. It's just great. It's about a young boy who gets foisted off onto his supposedly rich uncles because his mother wants him to worm his way into the will.
Basically. Or just steal the money if that fails, and that kind of fails. Well, he does worm his way into the will, but not out of the way she expects.
No. but they have a lot of money. They have guns. They just didn't really have anything to spend it on until he got there.
Fair enough.
Still, very good movie.
Now, the thing is that this movie is primarily told through a flashback that the grown-up version of Haley Joel Osment's character is having. I used that flashback, the fact that the story is primarily told in flashback, to get to Forrest Gump, yet another movie I have never seen. Or at the very least, I had seen, like, part of the... I think I had seen up to him going to boot camp and going through Vietnam, but I had never seen the whole thing. This is a 2-hour-plus movie that feels like it's half the time.
Yeah. It's very fast-paced. It's great. This is one of the movies that I have on my must-see at least once a year list, given the opportunity.
Yeah. Also had Haley Joel Osment as an actor in the movie, which I believe you made excellent use of.
Yep. Because we hadn't used same actor for quite a while, I decided to use same actor again and do yet another Haley Joel Osment movie of AI.
Artificial intelligence.
It's good. He plays the main protagonist robot in this one. And it turns out that December might as well have been Haley Joel Osment month.
Yeah. I looked for another movie of his, but I couldn't find any. But I had another reason. I had another thing going for what I was going to end on.
We've already watched Tusk.
We have watched Tusk, yes. Now you'll notice down here that it says a Steven Spielberg film. It's also partially a Stanley Kubrick film, which is what throws everyone off.
Yeah. Kubrick laid the groundwork, but knew that he wouldn't be able to finish it, so he asked Spielberg to come in and basically do it with him.
Yeah, and they ended up essentially doing each other's styles. Kubrick is the one who did the very heartwarming opening and also the very heartwarming ending, although people can argue it till they're blue in the face. But I will say that Kubrick is the one who wrote that ending. And Spielberg did a lot of the middle section, which is a lot darker and a lot more adult-themed, that looked like it would be more of Kubrick's fare. So they did each other's styles, which is just fascinating.
It's wonderful. The fact that it works so well. And it also had another gem that I was able to sneak in. The fact that I hid the fact that Robin Williams does a voice from you.
Yeah, you did not even mention that until you kept saying that I would really like the Dr. No guy, and then it pops up and it's Robin Williams, and I'm like, you bastard.
And that brings us full circle to the final movie of the year. What was it?
Well, I'm gonna give a little story on this one because so first I thought of trying to use the first link we used this year to link to the final movie, that being A Wish is Granted. The problem is that a lot of movies that use it as a major theme kind of suck. But I realized the funniest thing I could do would be to get a movie that could link back to The Princess Bride in one move. So I used, but the link I used was Parental Abandonment to get us to The Secret Garden, which is based on a book just like The Princess Bride is. So
yeah, we've gone full circle. What took us a year, we could have done in 1 week.
We could have, yes. I realized it was probably the funniest thing I could do, and it's a heartwarming movie to end on.
It also sets a dangerous precedent that I must now fulfill.
Yes, because this year he's the one who got to pick the first movie, and giving you a little peek for those of you who haven't been joining us. The movie he went is a movie called Gentlemen Broncos, made by the same people who made Napoleon Dynamite, so that should give you at least a taste of what was in store for that freaking movie.
So I'm going to have to link back to that come next December.
Have fun. Before we get into our list of movies for the year, I ran through the data and I found some interesting factoids that we can use. The link we used the most was same actor. We used it 4 times. It was an easy one, and the fact that we only used it 4 times out of 52 movies, I think is still pretty impressive.
We could have used it an extra probably 4 or 5 times, but we chose to use a different link instead.
Yeah, because we do like keeping that in case, like, one of us has a bad week at work or something and we just can't think of anything. It's a good fallback.
Right.
The strangest link, and we were in agreement on this one, was the talking Marcel Marceau from Beetlejuice to Silent Movie. That is, like, I do some impressive shots when we play Valheim together. I could not land a shot like that.
I had completely forgotten about that the line was in Beetlejuice until we rewatched it.
And probably when that line happened, your eyes just did the cartoon bug out of your skull, like, wait a minute.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did.
So my list of my 5 favorite movies of the year that we watched were Everything Everywhere All at Once, Les Miserables, Joe versus the Volcano, Starship Troopers, because it gave me a lot to think about, and by the same token, We Were Soldiers also gave me a lot to think about. So those were my 5 favorites. Go ahead and read off yours.
My favorite were in order of descending. Everything Everywhere All at Once also. I cannot stress that that's such a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Ready Player One, because for a lot of the same reasons, there's just so much in it. You can watch it a dozen times and still be seeing new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Les Miserables, because musical. I love musicals. Constantine, because it subverted my expectations. I was expecting Religious Matrix, and it is so much more than that.
Oh, yeah.
And 12 Monkeys, because Terry Gilliam did such a wonderful job of portraying the subject matter. Mm-hmm. It was just great.
And we both agree that the worst of the year was Airplane versus Volcano. That was the lowest point. I think we both, we were both up. We were both good with Nightcrawler until the end. I think we were also both good with The Road until Viggo Mortensen's character made some very questionable decisions. But
Airplane versus Volcano, I mean, the title alone makes you think that where's the movie? The volcano's going to win.
Yeah.
And when I explain it to people and they make that argument, I like to look them in the eye and say, does it? Just to be mysterious. Of course the volcano wins. It's a damn volcano. But the fact that it's on the same level, I would say slightly below Sharknado quality.
Well, I think it angered you a lot more because you are a former pilot, and you are also former military. So this movie threw both of those in there just to piss you off that little bit more.
I ranted several times because of that.
I was laughing myself. I was laughing to death basically the whole time because Cricket over there kept losing his mind, and it was the most hilarious thing ever.
I think I could have given this movie a pass if it hadn't taken itself so seriously. If it had gone the Sharknado route of, we're making a silly movie, let's play into that. But no, they decided to play this 100% serious drama. And that's where they lost me.
Yeah. I was not going to take it seriously. When you insist that you want to be taken seriously, that's when I start laughing even more because, like, if you have to insist, that means you've done something wrong. It's the same argument I have with Stranger of Paradise of the Final Fantasy games. Everyone behind that game insists that it's supposed to be a serious thing. I don't think you could be that serious when the guy starts playing Limp Bizkit on his fucking iPhone in the middle of a fantasy dungeon.
No.
So, now that we've done all of this, let's get into our guesses. We had a backstage coin toss, which Cricket won and I lost, and so Cricket is making me do my guesses first.
Before we do that, though, let's bring our judge in. Once again, when we came up with our list of 5 secret movies, we sent them to an impartial third party who basically was able to keep the list so that we had a written record of what they were so that we couldn't, change it. Not that we would. We're pretty honorable guys, but still, the fact that it's set in stone at that point. He was able to watch the back and forth all year long to see how we manipulated things and put the idea in other people's head to try and coerce a movie so that we could link back to ours. So let's get your opinion, Relic. Which of the 2 lists would you say would be the more ambitious list?
I think Cricket's was more ambitious.
I agree with that. Knowing my list and
links-
knowing what his probably is, yeah.
The links I think were, I don't know about more difficult, but the strategies that you both took, I think Cricket's made linking harder.
Okay. So you think I handicapped myself by picking the movies I did?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Of the two lists, which would you say is, given that the whole point of the list is to pick movies that have very little to do with one another, whose list do you think is better constructed?
That's tough. Because I think both lists. I mean, obviously, we spent the entire year linking completely different movies to each other. So back to the 6 degrees that we started with, that you could always find a link. I think that Cricket's was a little more all over the place, but also Angelo's was constructed in a unique way that I wouldn't say they're necessarily similar.
So the point goes to both, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And as far as the going through the year and the manipulation, who do you think did more manipulating work to try and get their list in?
I think Angelo did.
Really?
Really?
Just because, and we can chat more when we go through the list themselves. I think
Yes.
there is, I don't know if there's an intentional strategy, but the strategy that was maybe subconsciously selected, I think makes the list a little harder to guess, in my opinion.
All right. Fair enough. Shall we go
All right.
through our guesses?
That brings it to, all right, so which 5 movies do you think I picked for my list?
Okay. Knowing that these are probably completely off base, I went through the list and just picked some of the movies that I felt you were the most enthusiastic about getting in, some of the ones that you maybe took some more esoteric links to get to, and also maybe one that you just wanted to see. So my guesses are in order: Les Miserables, Alice in Wonderland, Everything Everywhere All at Once, AI, and Silent Movie. And now,
Relic, would you like to let him know how many correct he has?
I believe you have 2 correct.
I have 2?
You have 2 correct. Now
What?
can you guess which ones?
Okay, I'm gonna take a stab and say Everything Everywhere All at Once was one of them.
That is not correct.
Okay. My second guess, and this is the only second guess I'm gonna do, is Les Miserables.
Also
not correct.
Okay. Which ones do I have of the 3 remaining?
All right. So, go ahead and list the save the 2 that he guessed correct for last. Or no, go ahead and start with them. Go ahead and start with them.
Do you mind if I do them chronologically?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So his list was The Thing, Proposal, Doctor Strangelove, Alice, which you got correct, and Silent Movie, which you got correct.
Wow. Okay. So thinking back on it, I actually did think that The Thing and The Proposal actually did kind of stand out a bit, because I wasn't expecting you to like really be interested in those kind of movies, I guess.
Right.
The Thing especially was one of those ones that I looked at and I was like, I think I maybe had it on the list at one point, but then I replaced it with something else.
Right.
So maybe I should have gone with my gut on that one. Once you said that you're a Sandra Bullock fan, though, then yeah, The Proposal makes total sense. I probably wouldn't have guessed it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's the one I threw on there. I threw The Proposal on there specifically to mess with you.
That makes complete.
I
total
also
sense.
like that one of the more difficult ones I think to link there was Silent Movie, and it was almost handed on a platter.
I know, right?
End. Oh yeah. Now you know why I was so excited.
Yeah. Yeah, so all right. Cricket, what are your guesses for mine? I am interested.
All right, so my guesses, and I'm mostly going off of the esotericness of the link. I'm thinking that if the link was just too good to be true, that it was usually an accidental discovery.
Mhm.
However, that said, I think that my guesses, and if I do them in rough order, I would say that I would go with The Shining, Ghostbusters, Twelfth Night, Enter the Dragon, and Die Hard.
Relic, would you like to tell him how many he's got?
I believe you also only have 2.
You only have 2.
Okay, so I'm guessing one of them is Die Hard because you kind of let that slip in conversation.
Yeah, that one was a pretty obvious one. I was okay. Die Hard was on the list because I wanted something for the month of December, and then we changed the rules on it. So that kind of got thrown out, but still,
You could have done a much broader selection.
I could have.
get it.
Yes,
That's my fault.
it's all good.
And if I were to guess the other one, the one I've been guessing all year long is Ghostbusters because it's a classic that you said you'd never seen but wanted to.
Well, you are doing a lot better on the guessing than I am because you are correct on both of them.
Aha!
So
Yeah, the other 3 I mostly picked about an hour ago because I couldn't figure out the others. I picked Twelfth Night because you snuck a Shakespeare movie into movie night, and I didn't know why. So
I like Shakespeare, okay? Like,
but that's the first and only one we've done so far.
I haven't had an easy time getting the other ones in.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, what are the other 3 then?
So, Angelo's in order of when we watched them. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Damn it!
Ghostbusters, as you've already guessed. Terminator 2.
Oh, God damn it!
Gremlins.
God!
And
Ugh.
and then Die Hard in December.
Oh, I had to bite
Should've
my
gone with my gut.
Yeah. Before we did this, I think last time we were doing Gentleman Broncos, and I think at some point when we were talking, sometime this last weekend, you mentioned that you didn't think Gremlins was on the list, and I had to bite my tongue so freaking hard because you had stumbled across the right answer but thought it wasn't.
That was very
Your
difficult for
Gremlins
me.
was my talking Marcel Marceau.
Yeah.
I handed you the perfect link.
You did, yeah.
Yep.
Damn it.
And that was a really tough part, like watching this go down, because obviously I knew every week when the movie was selected if it was on the list, and for me to not spoil it was pretty tough. But also watching the inner workings of, I think there were some strategies being played even if they weren't intentional. I feel like Angelo's list was more like 80s cult classics, so you could shove a whole bunch in there and make it hard to guess that there's special movies as part of it, all while being just amazing movies.
Yeah.
And then the pacing of it also, where I think Angelo, you mentioned already, like picking Die Hard, knowing you were going to pick it for a December timeframe, and how and when you spread them out. And you both started pretty quick into the list. Within the first month, you both had already gotten at least one off. And then you slowed down until a little later in the year, which was also interesting.
Yeah, Gremlins was originally meant to be an October pick because it's a horror comedy movie, so I figured it would play well with October. And then Ready Player One just handed it to me on a silver platter, and I'm like, if I don't use this now, I am never getting a better shot.
Yeah, same with Silent Movie, which, by the way, was my last of the year.
Yeah, so I held on to Die Hard for a while, so.
So my list is basically, I had 3 things I wanted to do. I wanted a Mel Brooks movie, I wanted a Stanley Kubrick movie, and I wanted a Tim Burton movie. The thing I had never seen and wanted to, because I've seen games based off of it, played the games, it's great, but I'd never actually seen it. And the proposal I threw on there as the odd one out.
Yeah.
Just to throw you off.
I think in my case, let's see. I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was maybe my sort of wild card pick because a lot of those, my whole theme with the list, and yes, there's a lot of 80s cult classics on there, But a lot of mine was just, these are really good movies that I've never seen before that I really want to watch, and that's like 90% of the picks I do on movie night. So it's going to be really hard for him to pick these ones out. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is one that I had heard of before, and it's the one that's like, it's not remembered as well as some of the other movies. It didn't leave as much of an impression as the others did. But it was still one that I wanted to get in there, so.
All right. Well, that is the list for this year. That is the whole secret thing. The cat's finally out of the bag, and we're going to do it again this year.
Same
And
rules.
before we move on, just a couple of interesting things.
Mhm.
Was there were 2 back-to-back scores for you guys, where Proposal to Ghostbusters was both of you
Oh
picking,
yeah, that's right.
and then Gremlins to Alice in Wonderland was also
That's
back-to-back.
right. That's
That is
amazing.
true, yes.
I
Oh,
wouldn't have
also,
guessed. Yeah.
the one that I had to go to the judge on was Silent Movie. And the reason I did that is you'll notice that it is exactly 2 weeks after another of the ones on my list.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to know whether it was cool to do them that close to each other. Basically, essentially back to back for me. Because it was my movie, your movie, my movie.
Yeah.
So he ruled that he was fine with it, so I went.
And I ruled that way because I knew that Angelo had already done that pretty close with Planes, Trains, Automobiles to Ghostbusters. There might have been an extra one in there, but those were pretty tight together.
Yeah, I had cut
And I
it a
think
little close.
that's a strategy thing. If you want to get all 5 of them out of the way at the beginning of the year, that's,
Now that I think about it, Joe versus the Volcano, The Proposal, and Ghostbusters are all 3 in a row.
Joe wasn't on the list.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other thing. Never mind.
Yeah, it's on my
Although-
favorites though, so maybe that's what's throwing you
It
off.
is definitely a good movie. That was a really great watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, we're gonna do this again.
and
I have a list of 5 movies already selected that I'm going to shuffle off to the judge as soon as we're done.
I am still working on mine. It was a bit of a bad week at work, so I didn't really have much time to go through and figure out some movies. But I'll get some done by next
That's
Monday.
okay. You get a freebie. We set the start date for the official thing as the 3rd week. That way I get a movie, you get a movie that we know are not going to be on each other's lists.
Yeah. And if you want to join us, we'll have a link to our shared Discord down in the comments section below. And until next time, you guys have yourselves a good one. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, play us out.